Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to write a crochet pattern using Ribblr. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. If you haven't followed me over on Instagram yet, go and have a look. I am posting a new series where I am taking inspiration from mugs and turning them into crochet clothing. This is the first mug that I am taking inspiration from. If you want to have a look at the others, go and follow me on Instagram. I have a bunch of reels over there that basically show the start to finish process. We are about halfway. I'll show you guys where I'm up to with the cardigan, and we're going to start writing the pattern in Ribblr. So far, I've done one of the sleeves. I have basically just winged this. I'm quite happy with it, I think. I'm yet to make the other one, but I will obviously need to record that process. I'll show you what it looks like on. So far, I think that's going to be good. I'm not quite sure where the actual cardigan is going to come to yet, but I'm happy with that for now. This is the bottom of the cardigan so far. Looks a bit ridiculous while I'm sitting down, but you get the gist. So this is where I'm up to. I still need to do quite a few more rows around here to get to armpit. But so far I have got enough that I can start writing the pattern. Now Ribblr is where I first started writing my patterns. I am very used to their platform, so I haven't really found anything else that I like yet. I find this just an easy starting point. Every single thing that you're going to need to write your pattern is on that website. So it's just a matter of going in and filling out every single section. When I pattern write, I tend to start off by making the project first. So I sit down, I have all of my ideas. Sometimes I draw it out. Sometimes I write down notes along the way. Other times I just go for it and hope to God I remember. But there are some things along the way that you do want to actually take a mental note of. Just things like stitch counts, measurements, that sort of thing, because sometimes later on down the track, it is really important that you've got that stitch count correct. All of these little things you learn along the way with pattern making. I definitely only learned them like a year into pattern making. So it all comes with practice, but hopefully I can give you guys some tips just to make your pattern writing a little bit easier. Now, Ribblr is a free platform to use, which is another reason why I love it. It also converts all of your measurements, your types of stitches, whether you write in US stitches or UK stitches. It converts all of that automatically just by choosing a few settings. So it is really, really good for literally everyone, especially if you're a beginner. I think that's all I need to say right now. I will explain everything obviously throughout the video in as much detail as possible. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please put them below and I will answer every single one of them. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into the tutorial. Go ahead and log into your Ribblr account. If you haven't got one yet, you will need to create one. Head on over to my shop, and this is where all of your patterns will be. Here's a look at all of mine so far. These are all published ones. As you creep down further, you will find all of my ones that I have not published yet. A lot of patches. I should have released these forever ago, but yeah, I just got a little bit slack. This is my patchwork cardigan here. That's basically what all these squares are for. So we're going to go back up to new pattern. And this is basically going to give us a complete blank canvas. Now, we are making the cardigan for our tulip mug. So for now, I'm just going to call it tulip cardi. That'll do for now. Pictures, I will just do at the end. I haven't got any yet because the pattern's not obviously done. Here, we're going to enter in, obviously it's crochet. I would like to hope that this is going to be beginner, but we can change that later. Category, clothing. I like to work in centimeters and US stitches. So again, make sure that this is all set to how you write your pattern because Ribblr will auto convert for you. As for sizes, I'm just going to put here made to measure. I'm not going to be doing specific sizes. I'm just going to let you guys make it according to your body type. Now, our gauge swatch. This is something we can actually do right now because I have some of the cardigan made. Before I started the project, I actually went and made a few little swatches using different sized hooks. The first hook I tried was a 4mm hook. I could tell already it was too tight, which meant my project was going to turn out too stiff. I then moved on to the recommended hook for this yarn, which was 5.5, and I still didn't love it. I then tried an 8mm hook, and this was way too big. It was really annoying to use, and I just knew I'd get frustrated while making it. Finally, I settled on a 6mm hook. This was perfect. I knew it would have a little bit of stretch and it wouldn't be too tight, but it was really comfortable to use the hook. Lastly, I just tried single crochets for the hell of it. Actually, I think this is a different type of stitch, but yeah, didn't love it. So yeah. Now that we know we are using a 5mm hook, we can now do our gauge swatch. We're going to measure how many rows fit in 10 centimeters square, or 4 inches. Lay your measuring tape down starting at any row. It really doesn't matter. And we're just going to count how many rows are in that measurement. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. Occasionally you can fit another half row in, so you would write 7.5 rows. I believe that's what I was checking here. I decided on 7, so that's what I will write in my gauge swatch. Then we will move on to the stitches. I'm just going to rotate the sleeve so it's a little bit easier to count, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Line your measuring tape up with a stitch and count how many stitches are in that 10 centimeters. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so for our gauge, we can now put that we make 12 stitches over 7 rows, and that gives us our 10 centimeters. I think I sometimes put that because that auto converts to exactly 4 inches. So here I will write double crochets using a 6mm hook. Okay, so that is our gauge. That basically explains to anyone that if their tension doesn't match what my gauge is, it's going to turn out completely different. Because this is made to measure, it's not going to be that big of a deal for them. But if you were making a pattern where it's specifically meant to come out to a certain measurement, this could change everything for them. If their gauge is incorrect, I would always recommend sizing up or down a hook, or maybe even changing their yarn so that it matches. You never want to alter your tension because that's just going to be uncomfortable for you to maintain throughout the entire project. Down here we have tags. So for this one, I'm going to write crochet cardigan. I'm going to write tulip, flower, made to measure. Literally just whatever you can think of. That'll do for now. Intro. I like to just put a quick little intro about this pattern. So obviously we're making this over from Instagram. So I'm just going to put something like from our Instagram series where I am taking inspiration from my mug collection. Create your very own tulip cardigan made to measure. I always add down here something about following my Instagram. What is my Instagram? And literally just anything else you want to put in there. You can write how you make it, whether you're going to start with the base first, then do the sleeves, if you're going to crochet from top to bottom, if you're going to make patches first, whatever it is, you can put that in there. Now, onto measurements. This part I always do at the end if I'm making something that has got measurements in the pattern, just because obviously right now I'm not going to know the measurements until my pattern is complete. So leave that part for now. We can come back to that later. Materials. So this one's a fun one. You can just go ahead and type in all the things that you need to make this cardigan. So here I have yarn. We're going to go with, what I'm going to do is just go to their website and have a look at their yarn. So a blend, no, it's not the one that I'm using. We're going to go to Source of Fiber. These lovely ladies gifted me the yarn for this pattern. So shout out to them. They have such beautiful yarn. So here are the colors. I have, I believe, this one. So it's called Aaron and Eve. It is 10 ply or Aran weight. So go back to here. We can choose 10 ply or Aran. So there's those two options there. I mean, it doesn't overly matter. So yeah. Colors. So here we can pop in, that's quite close to the color, that'll do. And I'm going to write, I guess, pink. It's kind of like an apricot color. I'm going to write apricot. And let's go and make that a little bit more apricot, maybe over this side. I think that's good. Let's do that. And then here we can write how many balls of yarn we need. Obviously, again, I don't know this until I'm finished. So I'm just going to put 5 for now because that's how many I have. Here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this link and I can add that into there. So if anyone comes across this pattern and they want exactly the yarn that I use, they can click on that link and it's going to give them the yarn. I'm going to go ahead and add the other ones. I have, again, the same type of yarn, but in a red color. So it looks like this one here. And I'm going to copy that, paste it back over here. I only have one ball of this color. I also think that's should be a little bit more pink. Let's go with that color. And then last yarn we have is, I believe it is Dirty DK. So let's just go have a little look at that. Yep, in this color here, peacock. So let's copy that one, put it over to our pattern. Again, just one ball for now. It is a dark green and it was 8 ply. Okay, so there are our yarns. We need a crochet hook. I use a 6mm for this one. We need some scissors. So let's go down to accessories. That'll do. And we need a tapestry needle. Needles, tapestry needle. Cool. So I think that is about it. I haven't thought about buttons yet or anything else, so we'll just leave it at that. Next page. Oh, let's change these colors. Apricot. Let's go red and dark green. Beautiful. Next page. Now, here is how we start our pattern. So we can give it a heading. I feel like typing something like tulip cardigan is going to just waste that heading. I like to just sort of start straight up with the different sections. It actually really depends, because if I was to do something that had patches as well as trimming and all of the things, I probably would just put here patches. And then this one would be flower patch. And then the next one would be, I don't know. Oh, wow. And then the next one would be, I don't know, sun patch. So that's what I would sort of do for my headings. But for this one, I think we really only have sleeves, trim, and like the base, I guess. So I might just go here straight up sleeves. I think I'm going to start this pattern with the sleeves only because we need the sleeves done to get the stitch count for our base. So I'm going to go sleeves. For our next one, we're going to go ribbing. Our next one, I'm going to go base, or actually, you know what? I'm going to go base. And then as a subheading, I'm going to do ribbing and then length. For the sleeves, I'm going to also add ribbing and then sleeve. And then we can do the rest later. So starting off here, so the way I did that, this little arrow switches between how it's highlighted. So basically, this one's your main heading, this one's your subheading, this is the rows. Like, so if you're actually writing your pattern, you've got row 1, row 2, row 3. And then this one's just kind of like an information, like this is how we're going to start the row. This is just whatever you need to write information-wise about that row or section. So we're going to put that back to our main heading. So how do you spell sleeves? I've been looking at that for too long. Now, to start off our pattern, we're doing the ribbing straight up. So × 2 means you're just copying this row. I just like to press that and then switch it to my row number. I'm actually going to add an information mark straight up. So here I'm going to write, obviously we know that there's only a 6mm hook used for this. If you had 2 different option hooks, then I would probably put that in here, but we don't, so that's good. You can put in here, like if your first chain 2 or chain 3 equals a double crochet, you can put that in here so that they know that counts as a stitch. I don't think we need really too much. We're going to chain 6 to start. You can put this here as the row number. So row 1 is chain 6. I kind of like hate wasting a row on just chains. So I'm probably going to write in there what the actual first row is. The chain 6 is just kind of like the start. We are then going to skip a chain and single crochet times 5. That is our first row. It's very obvious, very clear. Chain 6, skip a chain, and single crochet times 5. And for our stitch count, I like to write it in these square sort of brackets. Our stitch count is 5. Our chain 1, like in that chain, isn't a stitch. It is just the start of our row, if that makes sense. Over here, we can add photos. I do all my photos at the end. I find it easiest in case I make a mistake and have to change my photos. So that's where that is. So if you click that, it's going to pop up with your photos or wherever your computer is at that time. And you're just going to have to go find your folder and find your photos. You can also add files, which is pretty cool. There's obviously the bin to delete the media. You can add a YouTube link, which is great if you've got a YouTube channel. I don't know what that is. I guess you're able to download each photo. And this one we can open up, and this is literally a brand new chart. So you can draw out, say, like a granny square pattern. You can draw it out using all of the little icons. You can import from your library, which is pretty cool, and you could create brand new ones. So I haven't done this yet. I don't really need to ever use this, but if that's how you like to write patterns or you want to learn how to write them, that's also a great option. Okay, so that's our first row. For row 2, so again, I just copied that down to a new line. Row 2, at the end of row 1, I like to pop in like the steps to start the next row. So for this one in particular, we're going to chain 1 and flip. So for row 2, we are going to single crochet times 4 in the back loop only. If you don't know the terms or the abbreviations for your stitches, then definitely Google that, because when you type in BLO for back loop only, SC for single crochet, SK for skip, Ribblr is going to auto convert that for you. So let's say someone wants English terms, that's going to auto convert to double crochet for them. I know it says single crochet for us, but if they were to change their thing over to UK terms, that will automatically change for them, which is so good. So for round 2, we're going to single crochet times 4 in the back loop only. And then in the last stitch, we're going to just put single crochet in last stitch. I don't want it in the back loop only. Again, we have 5 stitches. And to end the row, we're going to chain 1 and flip. If you want, you can put up here as a little info heading that chain. Oh, I don't know what I just did, but that's cool. Chain 1 does not equal a stitch. So then they know that that chain 1 isn't included in our 5 single crochets. So for this particular pattern, you are just doing that until you have the width of your wrist. You can do it in a couple of different ways. You could write every row out if you were doing, say, measurements. So if I was doing exactly 16 rows, you could just sit here, copy every single one until you have 16 rows. Or if you're making to measure like I am, you can just put another information line and you can put continue on for as many rows as you need to wrap around your wrist. Okay, simple. So for me, I believe I made 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 25, 25 or 26. I made 26. You can add that in if you want. You don't have to. I'm going to put it in there just for notes so that I can remember. So that is our wrist done. And I'm just going to add in here as another row, attaching together. Oh, attaching. And I'm going to put fold over your ribbing and line up the edges. I'm going to leave that as one step because I'm going to add a photo for that. And then I am going to put in, I'm just going to keep that as the step heading. Insert your hook into the first stitch of the front and into the first stitch on of the back loop only. Again, another photo. And then you're going to complete a slip stitch. Sorry guys, my camera turned off. So it is a different day, as you can probably tell, but I have gone in and inputted as much of my pattern as possible. So far, I've pretty much just done the cardigan itself. I have added a few little changes that I wanted to show you along the way, just so that we're all up to scratch. So as I was saying before my camera ran out of battery, I like to basically write as much information as I can about the pattern. Again, it could be simpler for you to write the pattern while you're making the project for the first time. I don't do that. I make my project first and then go back and do what I'm doing right now and hope to God that I've remembered everything. But again, you pick up all of these little mistakes along the way, especially in the testing process. So it really is up to you and your method and what you find the easiest. So now we're obviously writing down everything that I can remember. I will then normally go back and make the project again following my steps. This time I'm not, I'm just winging it. I'm just going to write it all out, start the testing process, and hopefully I've got everything there. Honestly, I wing a lot of things. So in my measurements, I have added that this cardigan is made to measure. I have written that I'm going to put little reminders for stitch counts because this is made obviously to your measurements. Their stitch count is going to be different to mine. So I just want to make sure that they know what they need to keep a track of. I've also put in there that I've added the yarn needed for my size as well as the exact steps that I took. So if there's someone that is my size or wants to make this exactly the way I made it, then they can just follow my steps and it's going to be really simple for them. I added to our materials that we need stitch markers because as I was going through the pattern, I realized that was a big necessity for this pattern. So here we are at the actual pattern. I decided to start my pattern from the vest. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but I have completed the cardigan now. And it made more sense to start with the vest. So I've changed that to be at the beginning. And basically, I've just gone and added in what I was explaining before. So I've got here my vest, the ribbing. We will start from the bottom and work our way up. Chain one does not equal a stitch. These are all things that are going to help the creator to understand exactly how the project is being made. So again, here is our written steps for the ribbing. I've got here to continue on as many rows as you need to wrap around your hips. And then this is very important. This number needs to be divisible by 4, just purely because when we get to making the vest part, we're going to need a panel at the back and we're going to need 2 panels at the front. So if your project, say, has an odd amount of stitches, you're not going to have the correct amount to make that. Moving on to the length, I've just written exactly how we're going to make the length. We're going to place 1 stitch for every row of ribbing. So again, very simple. You're just double crocheting this entire panel. Then when we reach the armpit, you are going to then use your calculator to split that into the 4 panels, figure out that number, and then we know how many stitches are in each panel as well as how many rows we want to make. This is all just made with practice. I've learned this along the way. Like I said previously, I would normally make my project myself, go and write the pattern, make it again, following my steps. And then all these little bits and bobs jump out at you throughout that process, things that you've forgotten to mention, things that are really important to mention. And then when you start your testing process and you actually have testers making this, then that is just going to bring out even more mistakes, which is amazing, that you can fix and eventually have a perfect pattern. So from here, I have our panels. So I've got our front panel, our back panel, our final panel, how we attach them all together, and then I work on the sleeves. This pattern is a little bit tricky with stitch count. It is something you kind of want to get correct so everything lines up. But at the same time, it is very lenient and it is fine to make mistakes. It's very easy to fix. Realistically, I probably should have made this entirely different by potentially not making these as whole pieces that you attach together. Instead, making it just a sleeve panel that you can attach along the seam at the end, compared to I worked in rounds around my arm. All these little things are up to you entirely. I like the look of a cardigan that has no seams. It's all just made as in one go. But again, it makes it a little bit more difficult for the creator. So again, entirely up to you, but you want to add as much information as you can. So here I have my sleeves. We're starting from the cuff, working our way up. And then we go on to, so that's our ribbing. And then we go on to attaching the ribbing together, working on the sleeve. Again, I have a lot of info here and I'm really hoping it's not too complicated. I will find out in the testing process if I need to make changes. And then, yes, working all the way up until our sleeve is completed and we attach it onto the vest. That's where I'm up to so far. So what I thought is I will write this on my own and I will come back to this section and explain the tulip and the pockets and all the extra things that I make and how I've written it out. But right now, while I've got you, I'm just going to show you how I add photos. So going back up to the very beginning, this is how I like to do it. Again, you will figure out your own way. When my pattern is completely finished, I will then get every single photo, put them into Lightroom, and I will edit all of my photos, add them to specific albums. For instance, sleeves, I'll get all my sleeve photos and put them in an album. I'll then get all my vest photos and put them in an album. And then I just sit there for one, and I might watch a movie and I will just start adding all of my photos. Sometimes this can go wrong and you have missed a photo. This has happened to me quite a few times, I'm not going to lie. So if that happens, it is very, very annoying because you might have to go and make that piece again. I have learnt some ways to edit them in Lightroom using AI, so I don't have to make it again. But this is something I've had to learn along the way. If you'd like a video on this, let me know because I am more than happy to do that, as it is a huge help. Now, this really only happens because I am not remaking it. So like I said before, normally I make the project, write the pattern, make the project again, and that's when I would take photos because I have obviously my pattern written and I know which photos I need. Because this one I am not doing that. I am not remaking it. I took all my photos the first time, which is a huge risk, which means now I actually do know for a fact that I have missed some photos. So I'm going to have to detach my sleeves, take those photos, and yeah, anyway. So definitely smart to make your project again, take the photos, and that's when you would sit and add them to your Ribblr pattern. Now with your photos, what you want to do is, I'm just going to move to, see, look, I took photos all over the place. I had a sleeve here. I didn't even take photos of the cuff until I went back and made the second cuff, which is somewhere over here. Honestly, my pattern writing is all over the place. So don't do what I do because it is very confusing. Okay, back to the sleeve. So this isn't even the start of the sleeve. This is the ribbing when it's completed. I must have the ribbing back here. All right. Who knows where my ribbing is? Maybe it's because when I made this piece, oh good Lord, see, this is why maybe I haven't imported them all. Okay, so let's just go to the cuff. Now with your photos, you want to take them on a plain background. I like a good white background. My table is very reflective, which is quite annoying. You could pick a foam board to put them on. You could pick a carpet. You could get a sheet, anything you want. And again, if you want a video on how I edit my photos, I am more than happy to do that in another tutorial. I have just realized that the reason I have missing photos is because when I recorded them on my professional camera, I was just going to take screenshots from the video. I don't think that was my intention, but I knew that that's what I was going to have to do with any photos I had missed. I was very sure that I did take the photos that I'm missing, so I might have to deep dive into that. I'm going to go do that and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I went and took a few photos. I'm just going to quickly show you guys roughly how I edit them. This is probably a whole entire video itself, but I'll just give you a little rough idea. So I like to just go and edit out just bits and bobs that I don't need in the photo. Again, it doesn't overly matter. You can see the photo, you can see the stitches, you can see exactly what it's meant to look like. This is more just if you want to make it that a little bit more professional. So I like to go and take out as many of the shadows as I can. We're actually going to go to a mask and take the shadows out in this way. Again, this is all stuff that you really don't need to do when you're just starting out. This is just what I do because I have been pattern writing for so long. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So here you can see a little dot. That doesn't need to be there. I'll just get rid of the AI. That's roughly all right. It doesn't really need to be that much. better. That might just make subject a little bit more contrast. Perfect. All right, so let's go and export these into a folder. I'm obviously not quite done, but it's at least a start. So let's go new folder, tulip, cardigan, tulip cardigan pattern. Then we'll get back into our pattern, and this is where we will start attaching our photos. So our first photo we're going to attach is this one here. Sometimes it glitches and I have to just go back and delete, like copy that row and delete the previous one because it was just glitching. So go and try that again. Here is our photo. If you want to make any other changes, you can here. This is the same sort of thing with your brightness and temperature and stuff. I love to add arrows sometimes if needed. I use this when, I need to show where we're going to start or where we're going to attach our yarn to. Sometimes I use a circle. Anyway, I'm happy with that. So let's just go and add it. Just going to go to the next photo and add, oh, that's the wrong one. Row 2. And then row 3. Okay, so that's the first 3 rows done. And then I'm just literally going to do that for every single photo. I'm going to go and edit all of them in Lightroom, save them to their correct folders, and then come back and literally just do this. Sometimes you might want to just split up some steps. So for instance, this one, I might add a photo of the ribbing for that part. And then for this part, I might add a photo of it wrapped around my hips. So I would just split that into 2 sections and have the 2 separate photos. So once I have done all of that and written the rest of the pattern, I will come back. Okay, we are back once again. So I have fully completed the pattern now. I'm going to run you through it very briefly. It took so much longer than I thought, so I am really glad I didn't record it all. So I've gone and changed the name. I think this is what we have decided on. I asked everyone over on Instagram, and this seemed to be the favorite. I just fixed up any little bits and bobs that I hadn't done at the start. So here I wrote a bit more of an intro to the pattern, and I also added a couple of things to measurements and materials. Again, I probably will have more that I need to add, but I will figure that out in the testing process. So onto the pattern. Like I had said before, we start with the vest. I put everything into categories. So with the vest, the first part is the ribbing, and then the length of the cardigan, and then we move on to each individual panel. Then we attach everything together and then start on our sleeves. So then I've got everything again listed from start to end. The cuff, the sleeve. It's very tricky, this pattern. I probably overcomplicated it. I will find out again in the testing process if it makes any sense at all. And then as we creep down, we've got attaching the sleeves to the vest. And then we move on to all of the little extras on this cardigan. So the customer can obviously make this however they want. They don't have to do it exactly how I did it. I have listed in there exactly what I did because obviously they're the photos that I have. And if they do want to make it identical to mine, then these are obviously all the steps. So I made the red trim. I then made some I-cords for the bows. I then went on to the pockets, the appliques, so the tulip. I might even write applique. I don't know. Maybe I don't need to. Leaves, and then attaching everything together. So we sew the leaves onto the pockets first, then the tulips onto the pockets, and then we attach the pockets to the cardigan. Lastly, we have attaching the bows to the cardigan and then blocking, and that is our entire pattern. I have added every single photo. It took me a little while to edit all of these, so I will just show you a couple of little ones that I've added in there. That's to get a good idea of the length of the vest. We have the back panel. I won't go into this too much, just to give you a little bit of an idea. Attaching the shoulders, the top of the vest, the sleeves. So we have the cuff. This is moving on to making the actual sleeve. The length of the sleeve. I personally like to add a million photos because even if you list it as beginner or even intermediate, people just love photos because if there is something that is a little bit confusing, some maybe haven't written out the step very well, they can just look at the photo and it is pretty obvious what you need to do. Here's our sleeves. Attaching our sleeves. We've got our finished cardigan. And then our red trim. Moving on to our I-cords. So as you can see, literally a photo for every single step. There are a lot of patterns that don't do this, but I think if you want to get good reviews and you want to build up your shop name, this is the best thing that you can do. My very first pattern, I think I actually had written some other patterns before, but it was very, very like at the very beginning of my pattern writing. My pattern went viral and I made a lot of mistakes in that pattern. I got a lot of bad reviews for things not being very clear. And every time I got a bad review, I've gone back and re-edited it and added in anything that was missing, or I didn't even have page numbers. This is more for PDFs, not necessarily writing on Ribblr, but the PDFs is where it gets tricky because it's not all laid out like this in Ribblr. You have to kind of add everything yourself and hope you haven't missed anything. So here is the last step, which is our final photo. And that is it. Our pattern is completely done. I'm going to start the testing process. I am going to give my testers a month for this project just because it is such a big project. Hopefully that's enough time. This pattern is actually going to be a free pattern because I do have it already as a video on YouTube. And I feel like if you are a pattern writer, having free videos really does expand your shop so much, because even though it may seem like free work, like you're not going to earn anything off it, you will gain engagement. You'll receive like views on videos and posts, and even YouTube. You'll probably gain a ton of subscribers from having that free pattern. So it all works in your favor, just in a different way. But that is it. I'm going to leave it there. I am going to go and get started on my testing process. Before I go, there was a couple more things that I just figured I would show you now. I was watching the video back and realized I hadn't shown you this yet. So just briefly, when you do start your testing process, if you haven't written the pattern straight away and let's say you've made the start of the pattern and you want to start the testing process while you're making it, you can actually use this little checkbox here, block view from here. As soon as you click that, your testers will not be able to see anything below that. So this is really good if you're just working on, like for instance, I'm working on a star suit for adults, and I forgot to write the mittens part of the pattern. I am now currently writing that, and I have just blocked view from there, so I can do that without my testers looking at it and getting really confused. So we obviously don't want to check that because I have completed the pattern. Now, just quickly, I'm going to show you what the pattern looks like, not in the editing part. So if you click on here, instead of edit in Rebuild, you're going to just click your picture and it's going to pop up with all your pictures, a description. This is how it looks to the buyer. Now, if you go Ribblr it, it will come up exactly how your customer will see it. And again, it's pretty similar, but there was just a couple of things that I wanted to show you. So here under measurements, it adds all your abbreviations. So anything that they don't know, obviously we've gone and typed these into our pattern, they can go and see what that abbreviation means. And when you get into your actual pattern, every single abbreviation is underlined. So you can click it and it will show you a video of exactly that stitch and how to do it. Ribblr is great for beginners because this is genius to be able to just see how to do the stitches without watching an entire YouTube video. This is just amazing. Just head back to our colors. So obviously we put our colors in here. You can click on these and it will take you to the website that I bought the yarn from. It gives you more of an idea of, all the specifications and stuff. You can write that in here too, though, if you do want to. And how we wrote our colors, whichever word you used, so I wrote peach, red, and green, when you get into your pattern, it will be colored so people know exactly which color to use for that section. So it's pretty obvious, like in the photos, you can see the color. But I don't know, it's just a nice little touch. See? This actually, I don't need that to be like that because this is going off these arrows, but I mean, still helpful. I think that is all. The only other thing that I didn't explain was sizing. Ribblr is again amazing for sizes. So here I have just obviously written made to measure. So that's only one size. Therefore my pattern doesn't reflect different sizes, but let me just show you with a different pattern. So if we were to get in, say, my bunny overalls, you can see here that I have different sizes. So each size is color coded and I can either see all of the sizes or I can just see one size. So let's say I choose the newborn size. When I get into the actual pattern, it will only show the steps for this size. This takes a lot of editing back in the rebuild where we were editing it before. I won't show you that today because my pattern didn't need it. If you do want a video on this, I can explain it. It can be very confusing. You will have rows all over the place in your pattern. You will have, obviously, as the creator, you're going to be able to see every single one of those steps, and it is so confusing sometimes because they are all numbered the same. The same row number could be, you could have 3 different row ones all having different stitch counts. It is very confusing, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to get into that too much right now because it is a lot easier if I can show you. But if you are making a pattern with sizes and you want a video, I am more than happy to do that because it is very in-depth. Anyway, I think that is it. I am going to start the testing process. You can control that in here by manage testing. You can copy this link to send to anyone that you want to apply for this. It will basically just attach them to this tab here. They will all come up in here. And these are all my girls that are testing this star suit. So I sent them all this link and they popped up here. I approved them and now they're all able to view the pattern. When I am finished the testing process, I will give them the pattern and I will probably give them the shorts that go with it for any that complete the deadline. Also, you can message testers, you can set dates. I don't really do that because I just kind of control that myself. You can also post a tester call in Ribblr. So if you don't want testers from Instagram or somewhere else, you can just take testers from Ribblr. And then when you're finished all of that, you can go and price your product. So I haven't done that yet. Mine's going to be free, so I probably don't even need to do any of that. And when I am ready to go live, I just click this and type my name or click some boxes and it will be live. A couple of other things you can do here is generate a PDF. So let's say you haven't written a PDF for this yet, but a customer wants one. You can just generate a free PDF. It will have the Ribblr watermark, but you can pay to get rid of that. Another option is a giveaway if you want to do that. You can limit how many people get this pattern. You can duplicate it. So if you're making something that is identical, let's say we want to make a bright orange one and it's going to be exactly the same. I'm just going to retake photos in orange. I could duplicate this and I could just take all my photos in orange and edit them and the entire pattern will still be there. And then finally delete pattern, which I will never do ever. Now that is definitely all, I think. I will probably watch this video back and find more things I want to say, but again, I will be happy to do a part 2 to this video if there are lots of questions. There we have it. I really hope that you learned something new. I know pattern writing can be really scary when you first start, but I promise the more practice you get, the easier it will be. My toddler is screaming away outside, so I think that's my cue to end this video. If you liked this, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you in the next video. Bye!